computer. All right, so we're gonna start this again for those who are listening from the recording. All right, so this presentation is called Bitcoin for Beginners. I'm trying to give a basic overview of what Bitcoin is and its impact on the world. So if you look at the slide, we see the date, January 3, 2009. This is from the Times Online. The Chancellor on the brink of a second bailout for banks. Billions may be needed to lend as lending squeeze tightens. So we know the world was in a crisis in 2009, recession everywhere, governments panicking, banks panicking, and they were trying to find a way to save the economy. And of course, they themselves put themselves in a situation where we know the whole thing about prime loans and so on, and just general money printing, and that messed up the whole economy, right? And this is not the first time a recession happened. Recessions have been a cycle for the past couple of decades, right? Now, this article has proven to be historic because this article was used by a person called Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto is not this person you see on the screen. He's actually somebody with the same name who people thought was Satoshi Nakamoto. So they press followed him, but he isn't the actual Satoshi. So nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Satoshi just went on an online forum of cryptographers. That's just, cryptography is basically the mathematics behind being able to be secure online, basically. Think of it that way. So whenever you go to a website that is HTTPS, you're using cryptography, right, to secure your credit card information or your data. Now, so there was an online forum of cryptographers that he presented his idea of Bitcoin. He wrote what he calls the Bitcoin white paper as a solution for what's happening in the economy. He said, because governments control money, they can do what they want to do and cause a lot of crisis in the world and finances. And for those who live in countries like Venezuela, they know exactly what that means. Zimbabwe, if you're a billionaire in Zimbabwe, you had no money, right? Because governments would just manipulate the currencies and just cause crisis in the countries. And it happens to a different extent in other countries as well. And we saw signs of that in 2009. Now, Satoshi decided that, hey, what if we can create a money that is not controlled by any person, right? So he wanted to solve the problem of sound money. Now, before we go into the Bitcoin concept, it is critical that we understand the history of money, because if without understanding the history of money, then Bitcoin's importance is not as significant to you, right? And it's after I understood what the history of money is when I realized, what Bitcoin really was. So if you think about back as far as civilization can think of, people had the need to trade, right? In high school, you learned about bartering, that people used to barter with things, but bartering wasn't a useful way of trading, because if you had cows and I had corn, yes, there's sometimes I want your cow and your corn just to barter. But what if I want salt? The person who I want to get the salt from might not need any corn, right? And so all right. Yeah, the person I'm bartering from might not need any corn, right? So if the bartering system couldn't scale well. So what started happening over time is that over history, people started using things like cattle. We know that in the bartering, then limestone, because limestone was like this pretty stone that you went somewhere and discovered it. And rare seashells in certain places in Africa. The divers would go like deep down in the water, and they'll find these rare seashells, and they'll become valuable, and people use them as money. Glass beads, metals, after mankind discovered metal and start mining metallic ore, it was something rare and it became used as money. Then precious metals, gold, silver, bronze, and so on. And then from precious metals, we move on to government money, right? And government money, cash, paper, bills, as we know, is a pretty recent invention. I think officially somewhere around the 1700s, 1600s, when that became a real big deal. Before that, it was gold coins, like in the Roman empires, Babylonian empires. It was gold and silver. Those were forms of money, the precious metals. And if you think about other places, what is money? If you go to the prison, right now, a lot of them don't have access to money, so they use things like cigarettes for money, right? So money really is a way to exchange value. That's what they really have in common, right? You're trying to exchange value for probably a service or goods, right? So we use these as tools to exchange value. Now, you have what we call sound money. Now, if you think about a lot of these things that were used as money, they no longer make sense to use as money. Limestone, right? Limestone was used as money when it was rare and nobody could find it, but now we know how to get limestone, right? Rare seashells. Rare seashells was a big thing before we had people with diving tanks who can go down and collect as many seashells as they want, right? Before you had to dive down with your breath, right? Metals. There are certain metals that were rare because it was hard to mine the metal, but now we have machines and we have these huge smelting manufacturing industries that can make metal. Precious metals, even precious metals that have been used, they also have their issues. So characteristics of sound money is durability, right? That means you can maintain its value over time. Now, a cow would die after a while. Certain seashells would start to break, and glass beads and certain metals will start to rust. Only certain things keep their value over time, like gold. Gold can't rust, right? So gold is a good one. Another characteristic is portability. That means I can take it from one place to another. And we know it's hard to take a set of cows across a distance, but you can take gold. However, gold is pretty heavy, right? So that's why you have cash. So people turn the gold into money, the paper money, and you can now move across distance. Divisibility means how much you can split it up in like small pieces. Gold, it's hard to be divisible, because if I want to buy, say, a candy with gold, you need a very small piece of gold, right? And it makes no sense to split up gold to those small pieces. And that's where government money wins again. And then you have limited supply. Now, gold, we know it's very limited. It's very hard to find gold. And that's one of the things that made it very valuable, because it was so scarce that people would just, you pick up another nation just to get their gold, because it's just so hard to mine gold. However, government money fails in that part, because if the government runs out of money, you just print some more, right? And acceptability, I mean, wherever they go in Trinidad and Tobago or Jamaica, they'll accept the local currency, right? But they won't accept it in Canada, probably. You probably won't accept Jamaican dollars in China, right? But US dollar is acceptable in pretty much most countries. So that's an important part. But if you look at all of these, most of them fail to have all of these characteristics of sound money. So we're going to look at more on that. So what is Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is considered a cryptocurrency. And that's because it uses cryptography to keep it secure. Now, we could have written software, people have been writing software to manage money for years. But if it's not secure, then people can steal it. So they use cryptography, which is really some mathematical functions, to create a very secure form of money, right? there are no physical Bitcoins, you know, like there is nothing you can hold in your hand. It's software, and it's held in what we call a public ledger. For those who did accounts, the ledger is basically a set of transactions that shows, you know, all the transactions that have been done in the past, and what is current balance, and who has which balance. That's basically all the Bitcoin is. A set of transactions of who owns what. And these transactions are stored in what we call the blockchain. I'll go further into that later on. So all Bitcoins are created, and the transactions are verified by a massive computing power. And that's what we call mining. So just like you have gold mining, where you get machines to dig into the earth, you have to invest a lot in those machines. Back in the day, it was pickaxe and shovel, but now we have excavators. Gold mining, Bitcoin mining also, you know, in the early days, I could have used my laptop to mine Bitcoin. But as competition increased and as more people start to mine, you have to use bigger machines, and you have what we call Bitcoin miners. And these are very powerful machines. They generate a lot of heat and use a lot of electricity because the competition of other Bitcoin miners is so high. However, it also secures the network because the people who are trying to verify and mine the Bitcoin use so much power. In order to hack the network, you'd have to use more power than the people who are trying to build a network, right? And it's very difficult to get that amount of power to hack the network. So it becomes very secure. And we have what we call Bitcoin nodes, which are, think of them as branches of Bitcoin, right? These are small computers, can be as small as a phone. And these allow the Bitcoin network to be decentralized. That means there's no single place where Bitcoin is located. I operate a Bitcoin node in Trinidad and Tobago. That means if tomorrow someone drops an atomic bomb on the US, all the people who are running Bitcoin in the US die and their computers, Bitcoin still survives because I'm running a part of Bitcoin, right? So and that allows it to be what we call decentralized once there are people running the system. So about where are the Bitcoins? Where are they stored? They're stored on the blockchain. So what is this blockchain? As I mentioned earlier on, the blockchain is just what we call a ledger, right? In the beginning, there was a certain amount of Bitcoin, then we generated some new ones, right? So the ledger keeps track of all the Bitcoins as they're created and all the transactions that happen. So I can't say I sent you some Bitcoin and I still have Bitcoin that I sent you, right? It's the Bitcoin ledger, the blockchain stores who has Bitcoin and where they have sent it. Now, when you own Bitcoin, you don't really have anything physical. What you get is what we call a key, and the key accesses your wallet. Now, think of it as a post office box, right? You don't really own a post office box. The post office has the post office box, right? And then if you want to access your mail, you take your key and you go to the post office and you open your box. And that's pretty much how Bitcoin works. Now, that's interesting because what happens, the only way someone can get your Bitcoin is if they get your key, right? Now, so that means nobody can steal your Bitcoin. And the key is really a string of letters. So think of it like a password, right? So that's what the key is, a password to access your Bitcoin PO box. And it's interesting because now I can have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, right? And I can fly to China and I still have $1 million worth of Bitcoin because I have my password, right? And no one can take it away from me unless they get my password, which is the key. So how are Bitcoins mined? It's a system that uses computers to basically guess a number. It's almost like a lottery, right? So in the beginning, when there are perhaps 2 persons mining Bitcoin, the lottery only had, say, 5 numbers, right? So if 2 of us were pulling tickets, you know, I got 3 tickets, you got 2 tickets. The chance of one of us winning is pretty simple, easy, right? However, when 100 million people start to mine Bitcoin, it has to create a lot more tickets to facilitate this mining, right? And then it becomes harder for you to mine, to get the winning ticket. And by getting a winning ticket, it means you win the Bitcoin for that, what we call block, right? So Bitcoin miners basically buy expensive computers, so they have a greater chance of finding that lottery number, so to speak, to get the Bitcoin for that block. And the more powerful your computer is, the more tickets or chances you get to win Bitcoin. Now, it's more complex than that, but just for beginners, think about it that way. So we were talking about money early on. So Satoshi Nakamoto, he saw the problem with money. He saw how governments were manipulating it. He saw issues in history in the past, how money has been, just used as a powerful way to, let's say, there's a saying that says, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So when you have absolute power, people with absolute power have absolute corruption, right? So if you control the money and you're powerful, then you can use the money for corrupt means. So Satoshi wanted to figure out a way where the money would be in no one's control. So making the money somewhat incorruptible in a sense, right? So he looked at all the characteristics of sound money. So sound money is the best form of money you can have. So it has to be durable. So he tried to make Bitcoin durable, which means it cannot be destroyed. No single army or government can come and destroy Bitcoin because it's so distributed all across the world. People like me, a nobody, is responsible for making sure Bitcoin continues to run, right? As well as huge organizations they have the same say as I have in Bitcoin. So it's very difficult to destroy. It's durable over time, and it has been getting stronger over time. As time has passed, it is even harder to stop. They said China has banned Bitcoin every year since 2013. Every time they've tried to ban it, they realize they cannot ban it. They've banned Facebook, they've banned Google, they've banned YouTube, they've banned pretty much all the technologies from the West, but they can't ban Bitcoin. It's not because they haven't tried. It's portable. Now, good money is portable, and Bitcoin is the most portable type of money you can have, because all you need is your key, which is pretty much a password. And anywhere in the world you want to go, you can have a Bitcoin. Or you can stay where you are and you can send Bitcoin to anywhere in the world. So think of the same post office box. The miners are the ones who distribute the Bitcoin. So you just say, take some Bitcoin from post office box number 5 and put it in post office box number 15. And I know that Charles or Richard owns post office box number 15. And the miner will take the amount that you want and put it there. So that's pretty much how money gets ported with Bitcoin. Now, it's the most portable form of money. It's easy to send $300 billion in less than a couple of minutes. It's the only way you can send $300 billion in less than a couple of minutes. There's no bank in the world that can send $300 billion in a couple of minutes. And Bitcoin is the only technology that allows you to do that. And there are no third parties. No one can tell you no. When you go to a bank and say, I want to withdraw my money, like, why do you want to withdraw your money? There's nobody it's a permissionless system. That means I can add or remove my Bitcoin as I need. It's divisible. A lot of people complain that one Bitcoin right now is worth around, last time I checked, $43,000 US. And they're like, I can't afford Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is divisible. Bitcoin is broken down into 100 million Satoshis. So they named the smallest unit of Bitcoin of the founder. Oh, by the way, the founder has disappeared. We don't know where he was around for about 3 years after he built Bitcoin, and then he just disappeared off the planet. Some people say he was an alien. Some people said You know, he died. Some people said, you know, he didn't want to be seen as the head, so he would get targeted. You know, but he has disappeared off the scene for about 10 years, and nobody has seen or heard of Satoshi since about 2012. Right. So it's the smallest unit of Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. And one Satoshi, well, I can't even tell you what one Satoshi is. 1,000 Satoshi, is equivalent to about 45 cents US dollars. Right? So if you want 1,000 Satoshi, you get 45 cents. And if you stick around to the end, I'm gonna send 1,000 Satoshis to anyone who wants it, right? And I'm gonna show you how we do transactions in Bitcoin. Limited supply. So when Satoshi created Bitcoin, he saw the problem that was happening with governments, where they just, if they run out of money, they just print more, you know? So he wanted to have a limited supply of Bitcoin. So in that case, when he wrote the program and the white paper, he specified that there will only be 21 million Bitcoins, right? There will be only 21 million Bitcoins. And it's mathematically encoded into the system. That means there's nothing anyone can do, me or you, to change that. Now, what does that mean? It means as supply goes up, as demand goes up, supply remains constant. I'll get to that some more later on. And acceptability. Bitcoin is accepted in pretty much every single country in the world. You can find someone to purchase a Bitcoin. Because it's so scarce, right now, everyone wants to find Bitcoin. And people have been using it to send money into faraway countries that it's the Western Union would be difficult to get there. If I live in a mountain in Chile, somewhere in an extreme place, and once I have access to the internet, I can get Bitcoin. And you have satellite internet. So Bitcoin can reach anywhere in the world. If I'm in the middle of the Saharan desert and I have internet, I have Bitcoin. Right. So I was mentioning supply and demand. Right. So with Bitcoin mining, it started off by, I mean, it's software, it's coded money, right? So they wanted to manage how the supply and demand curve would be, right? So when Satoshi was writing the Bitcoin, he said, you know, initially he wants to issue a lot of Bitcoin, and every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that can be mined will reduce, right? So think about like gold. You know, when people went to mine gold for the first time, all you needed was an axe and a shovel, because gold was on the surface, right? You just went there and you dig, and you find a whole heap of gold. But right now, you can't find gold in those areas anymore because the scarcity increased. So he programmatically increases scarcity over time. So every 4 years, we have what we call a halving. So as the Bitcoin miners are mining, after 4 years, if I was getting 100 Bitcoin for 4 years, whenever I mine, the next 4 years, I'll only get 50 Bitcoin. And think about it, more miners come in to get that same Bitcoin. So what tends to happen is that because the demand goes up and the supply can't go up, the price for the Bitcoin goes up. And I'll come to the price issue in a second, right? Now, there is nothing else on earth that has this relationship, right? Think about it, real estate. If right now there's a demand for houses, what will happen? You know, the price will go up, yes, initially, but then people build more houses and the price will sometimes fall back down, right? So if it's food, if there's a high demand for food, a lot of farmers will go and grow the food, the supply will go up and the price can crash it back down, and demand also crashes, right? So there's no other system in the world where as demand goes up, supply remains constant, because Bitcoin is programmed to be that way. It's the only system in the world that allows that to happen. for technology and even money. Even when the government runs out of money and there's a demand for money to build roads and to put in their pockets, they print more money, right? So the supply goes up when the demand goes up. I could only think of one thing that kind of behaves like Bitcoin, and that is finding a good spouse, right? When the supply goes up, when demand goes up, the supply doesn't go up. So finding a good spouse is perhaps the hardest thing, the closest thing to Bitcoin, that supply demand curve. Now, in the Bitcoin space, we have a term we use called HODL, right? HODL is just really a name, another word for hold, because the price for Bitcoin is all called volatile, right? There is a lot of what we call people start to see the price like shoot up. Like today, the Bitcoin will be valued, say $100, and in 3 days, the price is now $400. So you get 400% increase in a few days. So because of that, a lot of people they want to make some money. What else in the world could you make that amount of profit in a couple of days, right? And so Bitcoin's volatility is due to a couple of things. One, unlike most other things, it's not regulated by any government, right? So if I want to purchase Bitcoin, I just go to whoever is selling Bitcoin and I buy it. And if the scarcity of Bitcoin goes up, then the only way that person can manage is to increase the price, right? So what ends up happening is that Bitcoin goes in the news today. You know, they hear that this Bitcoin thing is happening. A lot of people get excited. What is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? And a lot of people want to get in because they heard that it was going up 100% yesterday. And a bunch of people just started buying without even knowing what it is, right? Now, when it goes up like 400% or 500%, a lot of people say, well, I've made my 500%, it's time to get out. And they start selling their Bitcoin. And in that massive selling to take their profit, you know, the price also starts to fluctuate and go down. Right? And it has fluctuated like crazy for years. It will go drastically up and it will go drastically down. Now, if you look at the price chart in this sense, it looks very volatile. It would go right here. We see it went up to almost 20,000, and then it went back down to like 3,000. Then it went up to 10,000, and then it's going back down to 15. And here it went up to 69,000, and it went down to 29. And then, you know, it seems volatile. Now, if you change the graph, and instead of using this graph, you use what we call a logarithmic graph. It gives a better sense as to the growth of Bitcoin over time, right? And this growth shows you that in its volatility, it continues to keep going up and up and up and up and up, right? And that's why in the Bitcoin world we see HODL. HODL is an acronym for hold on for dear life, right? Hold on so don't sell your Bitcoin because you think you're losing. Now imagine if you sold Bitcoin at the first red point here, right? In a few weeks or a few months, it would have gone back up. So instead of trying to think about the markets and seeing the price fall and worrying about it, just HODL, hold on for dear life, right? Because it's what we call money go up technology. Now, how has the price increased over time? This is in 2010. This guy here was one of the first hobbyists. He was playing around with Bitcoin, and at the time, Bitcoin really had no real value, right? So nobody knew how much the market wanted for Bitcoin. So he said he was on the same forum that Satoshi had started the Bitcoin thing on, and he was saying, guys, we've been playing around with this Bitcoin thing, but nobody's ever made any real purchases in the real world. I want to make the first real purchase of Bitcoin. Now, he was located in Florida, right? And he said, there is a Papa John's pizza store a few minutes away from me. Call that store, order me a pizza, pay with money, and when I get the pizza, I'll send you some Bitcoin. So someone nobody took him on for a couple of days, and then someone just saw the forum post, called the Papa John's close by him, spent $40, bought 2 pizzas, and delivered it to his house. And when he got it, he took a picture, said, "Here are my kids, we got the pizza, and I'm going to give you 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizza." And today, that 10,000 Bitcoin is worth $440 million, right? That's just an idea to show you how much the price has gone up over time. And this graph is a logarithmic graph. Mathematicians will know. So it shows the relative growth in Bitcoin over time. Now, as I said, it's called number go up technology. That's what we like to refer to as. Now, if you look at Bitcoin, even though it's volatile, it's really volatile. It will go up 50% and it will fall another 25%. It will go up 100% and then fall 50%. Now, if you do something we call dollar cost averaging. Now, dollar cost averaging means you invest a consistent amount over time, right? And in spite of the price. So you don't use the price to think about investing in Bitcoin. Now, if 3 years ago, you invested $10 per week, every week, you'd have invested a total of $1,570. And your investment would have gone up 398%. And you'd now have $7,822. And that is even if you bought Bitcoin at its highest price and it went down 50%. This is not something new in Bitcoin. This is something investors always tell people who are investing. Once it's an asset that you have done your research and you understand that it's a really good asset, then the best way to invest is not to just throw money at it, is to invest over time. Because if you buy, say for example, you buy today at 60,000 and the price goes down to 30,000, right? And you buy again today and it goes back up to 60,000, right? You'd have pretty much bought a sale when you bought again at 30,000, right? Now, so let's think about the Jamaican dollar. What if the same 3 years, I've invested $10 in the Jamaican dollar, $10 US in Jamaican dollar over the same 3 years. I'd have lost 15% of my money. So instead of earning almost 400%, if I'd just been saving Jamaican dollars, I'd have lost 15% of my money, just saving. Yeah, nothing risky, just putting it in the bank, saving. And maybe the bank gave you a 0.2%. So you might have 14.9, you might have lost 14.9%, right? So we see the difference between Bitcoin. Even though you think about a dollar looks relatively stable, right? To keep your money in a currency. And this is relative to the US dollar. Jamaican dollars relative to the US dollar. But what about the US dollar? The US dollar, if you look at the US dollar in time, since 1913, the US dollar has lost the majority of its value, right? If it was worth $1 in 1913, it's now worth 0.05 cents. So the Jamaican dollar is depreciating relative to a depreciating currency, right? And we know it's so for many other currencies too, right? And if you're from Trinidad, you know that the current value of the Trinidad and Tobago dollar is fake. It's not real, right? If you want, right now, if you want 10,000 US dollars, you cannot get it for the current price. You have to go on the black market and get it at the black market price, which is not $6.9 as they say here in the bank. You have to pay sometimes up to $8, $9, $10 for a US dollar, right? So the dollars are depreciating and the US dollar is depreciating. So saving and investing in what we call fiat. So fiat just means by command. The government commanded the dollar from thin air, right? So fiat money is depreciating in comparison to gold. So what if you have if you had invested in Bitcoin over the past 12 years, what would your returns have been? If you were lucky enough to come in early, like 2010, your first year you'd have made 9,000%, almost 10,000%, right? And then 1,500% the second year, 186% the third year, 5,000% in 2013. If you came in 2014, you'd have lost half of your money. And you only lose when you sell, by the way, right? So if you hold on to your Bitcoin, you never lose, right? You'd have actually gained. So if you are down 58% and you kept on buying, you'd have gained back your money in the next year. In fact, you'd have gone up by almost 80% if you bought at the lowest point, right? 2016, you went up 125, 2017, 1,300%. And you'd have lost some in 2018, lost the value of some. And we've seen 2019, 2020, 2021, it has always given a yearly return greater than real estate, greater than most stocks, right? In fact, Bitcoin is the best performing asset of the 21st century, right? No other asset has performed as good as Bitcoin. Now, is that good an investment? It depends on your time horizon, right? If you're someone who wants to get quick money, then you might win, you might lose, right? So if you want quick money and you happen to buy Bitcoin when it's at its low point and it just shoots up, then you might win. But you also might buy Bitcoin at its high point and it falls down, so you might lose. So if you have a short time horizon, it's a 50-50. We don't know if you're gonna make money, we don't know if you're gonna lose money. If your time horizon is instead 2 years, nobody has ever bought Bitcoin for 2 years and lost any money. It's volatile, it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. But if you remember the chart I showed you, the log chart, it really goes up. It keeps going up, right? So over time, it will continue to go up. And it has proven that in the past. And with inflation happening now and people looking for alternate ways of putting places to put their money, the demand is increasing even further. They're billionaires. Tesla, one of the best performing companies, and Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, owns billions of dollars of Bitcoin, right? So if billionaires are investing in it, who am I to be skeptic, right? and the interesting thing about it is that before there's nothing that I had equal access to as billionaires. Before, billionaires had access to Wall Street. The regular man had no access to Wall Street, right? You had to be a certified investor. You had to be earning above a certain amount of money. You know, Bitcoin levels the playing field. If you're in Zimbabwe and you're earning money pushing a cart in the market, you can own Bitcoin as much as Elon Musk, right? And Elon Musk's Bitcoin doesn't grow as faster than your Bitcoin. Whatever profits Elon Musk makes, you make the same amount of profit. If he makes 100%, you make 100%. It just depends on how much you invest, right? And there's no real estate. Bitcoin is the best real estate, right? In fact, there's if you live in a country like Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, there's no tax on Bitcoin because they don't understand how to tax it, right? There's no depreciation on Bitcoin. You don't have to maintain Bitcoin. It's sound money, perhaps the best investment you can make. Now, so those are things you have to consider if you're investing in Bitcoin. Now, who else is investing in Bitcoin? If you recognize this flag is a flag of El Salvador. I was there. I went to El Salvador in November, right? Because I wanted to know what a country that now has Bitcoin as a legal tender, how they operate. Yes, Bitcoin is the official currency of El Salvador. It's the only country in the world that has its Bitcoin as its official currency. I went to El Salvador. I took up my phone. I walked up to Wendy's by the store, the cashier. I ordered something, I took up my phone and I paid with Bitcoin. I gave them no money, you know, I just took up my phone with the Bitcoin I took from Trinidad and I used that Bitcoin in El Salvador. And I paid my tour guide with Bitcoin in the taxi. I paid, you know, it's accepted currency in El Salvador. And they can easily convert their Bitcoin to dollars if they want. So this is the first country to have ever done it. And there are other countries who are looking into making Bitcoin legal tender. In fact, this week, Russia say they're now accepting Bitcoin. They're not accepting it. They class it as a currency. Now, a lot of countries feel unsure about Bitcoin, so they try to ban it. But Russia this week said, we now consider Bitcoin as a valid currency, you know, and hence we're going to treat it as a currency. And other countries are doing the same. So we're pretty early in the game, and I have a feeling that by the end of this year, a couple other countries will start to follow. Now, I want to bring up the topic of altcoins. Now, of course, for something that is so profitable and is doing so well, if something's doing well, then people are going to want to do it too, right? I mean, if you find out something is making millions of dollars, you want to follow them to make millions of dollars too. So since the very beginning, when Bitcoin came about, you know, Satoshi had this concept of, you know, a pure money that has no control, there's no central control, nobody, you know, can edit it or change it or do anything to it because it's run by the people. It's for the people, by the people. However, some people's like, yeah, but Bitcoin can't do certain things. Like, let's make our own Bitcoin. So you had things coming out like Litecoin, Dogecoin, Monero, you have Shiba, you have, I lost track of all of them. And I'm sure you've heard Ethereum, you've heard a bunch of other coins. In fact, I did a presentation like this about 3 or 4 months ago. And I went to this website called coinmarketcap.com. And when I went there, I searched to see how many altcoins, alt is basically short for alternative. How many altcoins do they keep track of, right? Now that was 6,349 about 3 or 4 months ago. A while ago when I checked, it's now 9,362. And these notes are the ones that they keep track of. There are thousands of others who haven't made to the point where they consider them useful enough to add to their list, right? So there are tons of alternate coins, tons of them. Now, the difference between pretty much all of them and Bitcoin is that all of them, barring probably none, are owned and controlled by individuals or groups, right? There are a group of people who are the main controlling powers behind these coins. A lot of them are Silicon Valley venture capitalists. A lot of them are just people who dislike things about Bitcoin. They say, let's start our own Bitcoin. Bitcoin is too slow. Bitcoin is not distributed enough. You know, I didn't get in early enough, so I don't have enough Bitcoin. I want to start my own. And many of them have made a lot of money, right? Because a lot of people say, well, I miss Bitcoin. You know, it's now at $50,000. I want to catch on to this next Bitcoin, right? You don't want to miss the next Bitcoin. So you jump into it. However, the majority of them have performed like this. Now, this is a graph that shows you the top 2,412 coins and a price chart, right? The majority of them have gone close to zero. The majority of them, right? Because the fundamental why a lot of them got built was to make quick money, right? It was not about creating what we call a censorship resistant decentralized money that is best, that works for the entire world. A lot of, in fact, there are some of them that I know, notably recently, one called Solana. Billionaires in Silicon Valley who invest in companies like Google and Facebook and whatever. They wanted to create the best cryptocurrency. It's the fastest cryptocurrency. You know, it's cheap, so a lot of people could have bought it early. And what they did, say they had 100 million of these coins, right? They said, all right, we're only going to put 30 million on the market, and we're going to keep 70 million for ourselves. And when they put that 30 million on the market, the price was say 5 cents, and now it's worth like $200. Now imagine they own 70% of those coins, and it went from 5 cents to $200. They've become billionaires overnight because people didn't want the next Bitcoin, right? And they just keep buying it. And you know, the buying say, yeah, it's faster than Bitcoin. It does different things. You know, it has utility, and a lot of them go up. And then when it reaches a high price, the venture capitalists who invested early say, well, we have 70 million this new coin. Let's sell 20 million of them on the market. And because the supply increased, the price falls, and a lot of people try to get out and they lose money. You know, so the altcoin industry is very, very, very risky because there are a lot of people behind them who have just the mindset to make money, right? And with Bitcoin, it's a bit different because there is no single group or person behind Bitcoin, right? It's completely decentralized. It's not without its flaws because there are people who came in very early who mined Bitcoin in 2012, 2010, and they own a whole lot of Bitcoin. And every now and then they sell up a whole bunch and the market like dips. But as we have seen, it dips, but it goes back up. And you just really have to have a longer time horizon in your mind when you're thinking about holding Bitcoin. But with these altcoins, you're never sure if they'll ever go back up, right? Because the fundamentals that they're built on are not strong enough. So they will go, a lot of them will go down, especially when Bitcoin goes down, the whole market goes down. But when you expect them to go back up, they don't, and they keep going down. And people realize they're not going down, so they just sell out and buy back more Bitcoin. So that's like the cycle. There are people who have made millions from them, and billions actually. And so everybody wants to be lucky, but it becomes a casino after a while. So where do I buy Bitcoin? There are, before I address that, the banks don't like Bitcoin. Governments don't like Bitcoin. Just because it's think about the internet when the internet just came about, right? In fact, let's go back before the internet. When the mail system just came about, right? People thought mail was terrible because people could send people threatening letters, death threats using mail. Like, you know, before to send a threat to somebody, you had to walk up to them and say, I'm gonna kill you, right? But when mail became a thing, you know, it's like, no, people can send me anonymous letters and threaten my life, right? It became risky and people didn't like that, right? But when telephone became a thing, people could now call you and you could hear the voice, I'm going to kill you, right? You know, or I just kidnapped your daughter, send me some money, drop off some money at this point, and people started using telephones for nefarious reasons, right? And people would call up banks and say, you know, this is my account, and they scam people. For Jamaicans know the lottery scammers, they're using telephones and using accents, American accents to scam people. Telephones have been used. So as technology come out, criminals find really good ways to use technology. And Bitcoin isn't left out of that. Criminals love to use Bitcoin, right? They have this thing that they call the name is slipping me, but basically somebody in India will log into your computer, install a virus that locks off your computer and all your data, right? And the only way you can unlock your computer is if you send this guy in India some Bitcoin. Now, before Bitcoin, you'd have to wire to his bank, and you'd have his name, you'd have where his address and everything. But with Bitcoin, you just send it to his PO box, ransomware. That's the word I was looking for. But with Bitcoin, now you send it to his PO box, which is Bitcoin address, and nobody knows really who owns that. However, Bitcoin is not totally anonymous. Even though I can have an address, you can track the movement of every single payment that has ever happened on Bitcoin. So if I purchase something from you, I can see where you send that money to. I can see that, okay, you send that money to your auntie. Well, I don't know if it's your aunt because it's just numbers, right? But I can trace it. And what ends up happening is that it ends up in one of these Bitcoin exchanges. So to convert your Bitcoin to dollars, you have to go to an exchange or to somebody who will give you money for your Bitcoin, right? But most people use what we call exchanges. So an exchange is a place where you send your Bitcoin and they give you US dollars or pounds or euros or whatever currency you use. And the government knows the addresses for these exchanges. So when they see Bitcoin going to these addresses, they say, okay, we know this Bitcoin was a stolen Bitcoin, and it went to Coinbase. Coinbase is an exchange. It went to Coinbase. Who is taking the money from Coinbase? And Bitcoin says, Coinbase, tell me who you gave the money to. And they say, well, I gave it to this person, and that person gets arrested. So Bitcoin is not, it's pseudo anonymous. It's not totally anonymous. So you can be tracked. So even though criminals use it, it's not really the best thing for criminals to use. Especially for large amounts of money, because you need some way to get out of Bitcoin into cash if you want to. And then the government can track you with that, or law enforcement. So where do you buy Bitcoin? I've used cex.io. Now, right, so I was saying the banks don't like it because they think criminals use it. I mean, the criminals use the internet, the criminals use phone, but because it's a new thing, they don't like it. So banks will try to prevent you from buying Bitcoin. In Trinidad and Tobago, only one bank supports purchasing Bitcoin. That's Royal Bank, I believe. Right? And in Jamaica, I think Scotiabank and NCB supports it. I have a list. Actually, I have a list that if you want, I can share of all the banks that you can use to purchase the Bitcoin and the credit cards that support it as well. So you can go to these places and you purchase your Bitcoin, you get your address, all right, and you send your Bitcoin to your address, right? So basically, these are what we call exchanges. You exchange cash for Bitcoin. And when you get your Bitcoin, you can use it in whatever way you want. You can decide to hold on to your Bitcoin, or you can decide to send your Bitcoin to friends and family. Now, if you're located in the States, Cash App, everybody knows, well, it's like one of the most popular tools for sending money. You can use Cash App to send Bitcoin. You can purchase Bitcoin on Cash App. The US actually, because it's very regulated in the US, a lot of companies are in the US that you can use to purchase Bitcoin. So if you have family and friends in the US, they can buy Bitcoin for you and then send it to your wallet in whatever country you live in. So CEX works, Coinbase.com works. Swan Bitcoin, it doesn't support, you have to have a US bank account for this one to work. There are ways to get a US bank account. If you travel a lot to the States, you can open one with just your IDs as well. But for the Caribbean, it tends to be cex.io and Coinbase that I've seen work for Caribbean credit cards. So other points, right? So I addressed the whole concept of scam, it being a scam. It's not that it's a scam, it's just that it behaves very volatile, right? So what would happen is that there's a lot of fanfare around Bitcoin, especially when the price starts to go up. When the price starts to go up, a lot of people start to hear about Bitcoin because it goes in the news, people start to hear about it. And when they look, they said in the past week, Bitcoin went up 50%, and you get what we call FOMO. So people were asking me what FOMO is. It's an acronym for fear of missing out, right? So you see Bitcoin price going up 50%, and you get the fear of missing out on this increase. So a lot of people now, they put their whole life savings into Bitcoin as it's going up. And of course, what goes up must come down. And Bitcoin then falls, and you see your investment losing 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50%. So if you invested in Bitcoin like 3 months ago, you would have been down almost 50% now, because the price went up to $69,000 and it's now at $43,000. However, if you had invested in Bitcoin a year earlier, it was at in the 10,000 range, right? So you'd have been 300% up. So it's really about being aware when you're investing that, okay, this asset is pretty volatile, so I'm not investing for the short term. I know it will consistently go up, and I'm not worrying about short-term gains, and it's the long-term gains are what really count. And you'll get hundreds of percent gains if you're patient enough. So that's the investment aspect of it. And so it's not really it's not a scam. That's not really a scam. It's not a scam, right? Because it's not run by anyone, right? You just really have to buy whenever the price goes down. That's the best time to buy. A lot of people get scared when the price goes down. That's the best time to buy. Right now the price is down and it's going up slowly. It has been, for the past week it gained 15%, right? So now is the best time to purchase Bitcoin. When there's fear, they say when there's blood in the streets, that's the best time to purchase Bitcoin, because a lot of people are fearful at this point. And when people are fearful, that's when you should get in and purchase Bitcoin. When there's excitement and fanfare, be careful. Like maybe you shouldn't buy it this time. So there's also the commerce part of Bitcoin. There are people who use it for commerce, who want to buy and sell things, right? Right now, if I want to purchase something in China, I perhaps could use US dollars. Alternately, I perhaps could use US dollars. Somebody just asked me to buy some for them. I could use US dollars, or I could use Bitcoin, right? Now, Bitcoin allows you to be able to purchase in any country, right? And you can send and receive Bitcoin. It's hard for me to send US dollars to China. Right now, if I were to send 100 US dollars to China, I'd have to pay a wire transfer fee, perhaps about $30. And by the time it gets to China, with the exchange rate and everything, it might work out to $60, right? To send Bitcoin to China, I can send Bitcoin and it costs me 0.005 cents, right? Now, for the commerce part of Bitcoin, there's this thing we call the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and this a lot of people don't know about this part of Bitcoin. It's a way to send very fast Bitcoin payments, and it's what's being used in El Salvador and lots of places to do quick commerce. And you can do online payments with Bitcoin. You can do person-to-person payments. To do person-to-person payments, you just take out your phone, you show the person a QR code, and they scan your phone, and you can send them Bitcoin, or you can receive Bitcoin in that way. So it's used for commerce, to buy and sell, and then there are people who do that in person or online. Yeah, that's pretty much most of, I think that covered most of what I wanted to cover. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. If I try to answer as much of the things that I saw people mention. If you have any questions, I want you to come to the mic or unmute, and I'll try my best to answer your questions and help you understand Bitcoin some more. Not all at once, everyone, not all at once. I can't answer so many questions at a time. Okay, someone asked, are there any other altcoins that you'd recommend based on what you know now? Personally, I don't invest in altcoins. I don't recommend investing in altcoins. That's my own personal stance. I'm a bit, what they call it, Bitcoin maximalist, right? Because I believe I understand a lot about Bitcoin, and I understand how it works, and I understand the values behind it, and I understand what it's doing. And I personally don't encourage anyone because there's so many of them, right? And you have to do a lot of research. And the research I've done, I just keep on finding people. When I research the other altcoins, I keep on seeing red flags in them. So I tend to stay away from it. However, it's not. I'm not giving you a warning to say don't invest in altcoins, because people have made a lot of money from altcoins too, right? It is a personal decision I have made not to do it, because of just me looking at how the fundamentals behind them, but they're a bit more risky, and you don't know which ones will fail, right? It's because they're all run by organizations and people, and the decisions of these people impact how well they perform, right? And I don't want that level of third-party dependence. With Bitcoin, it's totally decentralized. There's no individual or group of people who determine exactly what happens to Bitcoin. You know, I have as much say in what happens in Bitcoin as the other person. So I personally don't do it. But I mean, if you're going to do it though, if you're going to invest in an altcoin, I say do a lot of research, 100 hours minimum. Because if you're going to put your money in something, I'd say make sure you understand what it is. I've done more than 100 hours. I've probably done 600-700 hours of Bitcoin research, right? Because I've gone down the rabbit hole, and I know everything I think I need to know about Bitcoin, and there's a lot more to learn, right? So I'd suggest if you're gonna invest in an altcoin, research it, understand how it works, and don't just use it as a casino to say, okay, it looks like it's going up now, and then it goes down, and because a lot of people look at investment just based on how they see it going up or going down, and that's not the best way to do it. Ragan,
right. Evening, everybody. All right, Ron, bless up for this. I've been begging you for weeks, probably a month, to have this. All right, so given that there's the huddle, hold on for dear life and stuff. What if you really want to invest because you'd like to make money, not necessarily in the short term, but
medium term,
after a given period of time? What is that minimum time that you would say once you go into investing in Bitcoin that you are likely to see an increase? Because clearly, I mean, I'm not going to buy it and hold on until I'm 70. Let's assume that I need everything to buy a second house, a second car, or something like that. What's that minimum time that you think?
Right. So the cool thing about Bitcoin, and if you're investing in the method I mentioned earlier about dollar cost averaging, where you invest, well, the preferred time I always give is every week. You put a little in Bitcoin every single week, regardless of the price. If you did that, there'll always be a certain amount of your investment that would have gone up by a significant percentage, right? So if you have done that over the past 3 years, there are parts of investment that went down 50%, and there are parts that went up 80-90%, right? So at any point that you decide to take profit, you'll be making profit. Now, if you did a lump sum investment like one time, using the graphs from the past, there has been no 2-year period that has been without profit. Right. So if you just put $1,000 down today, just using history, 2 years from now, you will be profitable, historically speaking, right? There has never been a longer period, 2 years, where you have been in the red. Now, during that 2 years, there are points where you'd have made 50%, right? Because if you invested at the lowest point and it went up, no, so if you invested at the highest point, right, and it went down, and you invested here again, and it went back up, but it didn't reach up to that point, you'd have made profit right here, right? So that's why I encourage investing all across, every week across, because you make profit on different parts of your money. So, but in 2 years, you'd have made significant profit on your total investment. So I look at Bitcoin not necessarily as a get rich quick scheme kind of thing. I look at it as a very high return savings plan, like significantly high return savings plan, right? If you've been in Bitcoin, say for the past, well, I showed the graph earlier, for those who probably missed it. For 3 years, you'd have made 400% on your investment. If you've been investing consistently for the past 3 years, right? No real estate I know has gone up that amount. Not even in the hot real estate market in the States or wherever. You bought a house for 200,000 and it's now selling at 300% higher than what you bought it for 3 years ago. When it goes up 50% or 100%, people are like, wow, right? But Bitcoin has gone up 300% in the past. And in the past 3 years. So and in fact, that's just if you dollar cost average. If you were lucky enough to buy at the dip, right? If you're lucky enough to buy at the dip, you'd have gone up more than 300%. Yeah, you'd have gone up probably 600%. If you say if you spent like $100,000 March 2020, Bitcoin hit $3,000 something in March 2020. When the whole Corona thing came, $3,000 and something, right? And it's now at $44,000, right? Because that's the lowest point it hit. If you had spent all your money at that point, you'd have a whole lot of money if you invested a lot at that point. So, but I mean, I don't recommend trying to time the market. There's an investment saying that says time in the market is better than timing the market, right? So just always spend some time in the market, keep investing over time. Anyone else? What accounted for the dips? Somebody?
Ron.
Yeah, man.
My question is always, how do you cash out?
Right. No, because in the Caribbean in particular, Bitcoin is not regulated as it is like in the States. It's harder to cash out of Bitcoin, right? It's easier to buy Bitcoin because you're buying from overseas companies, but it's harder to cash out Bitcoin, and because the banks locally, they don't want to support it as it, right? Because they still have this fear of criminals and so on. Excuse me. So it's some exchanges that I've heard support you sending money back to your bank account through your card. I've never tried it personally because I've never cashed out of Bitcoin. I've only bought and hodled, so I've never had a need to. But I cashed. How I actually cash out? There are people locally sometimes who buy from me, right? They say, Ron, I want to buy some Bitcoin. So what I do, I give them Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Well, call it their Trinidad and Tobago dollars. I send them Bitcoin, and then I instantly take that money along with whatever profit I make, and I buy more Bitcoin. So I cash out by selling to other people. And Bitcoin is just always scarce. You always, whatever price is, it is, find somebody who will buy. And if you can't find somebody who will buy, I'll buy it from you. Trust me, I've never been at a point where I wanted to sell Bitcoin and I could not find somebody who wants to buy it. Yeah, I'm on, there's this WhatsApp group I'm on in Trinidad and Tobago. For those who understand the economic situation in Trinidad and Tobago, is that foreign exchange is extremely hard to get. right? The government is just trying to hold on to as much US dollars as they can, right? So, you know, like in Jamaica, you go FX trader or you just go somewhere and ask for some US dollars at the bank and get some US dollars. If you want to get US dollars in the bank here, you have to show them a plane ticket to say, I'm traveling, and they give you $200. Or you have to do a business and you book in long in advance and say, I want some money, right? And that's when you own a US account, right? So it's just really complicated to get money in Trinidad and Tobago. So because of that, there's a black market where the current exchange rate is like 6.9, but the black market people are selling for $8-9 US. And businesses who do a lot of importing, they want US dollars, right? When they come to Trinidad and they sell their products, they get TT dollars, but they want US dollars, right? So what they do, they buy cryptocurrency on the black market. You have this cryptocurrency they call USDT, which is like a stable coin. So stable coins are really like Bitcoins, but it's pegged to the dollar, right? The black market is not a bad thing, don't worry. Stable coins are cryptocurrencies that are pegged to the US dollar or whatever dollar. So you have this one called USDT, and USDT will not go up or down, but you can use it for transactions overseas. So people, I'm in a WhatsApp group and I see someone saying, I have 50,000 US dollars to sell at $8.30, right? People are buying cryptocurrencies like crazy. And in a minute, like in a few minutes, that person said, I don't have any more money, right? People buy these cryptocurrencies because they get the ability to send and receive money, you know, without any permission from the banks. To get 50,000 US dollars from the banks is practically impossible, but you can get it in cryptocurrencies pretty easily. So it gives an advantage when doing commerce. And I was answering a question, I don't remember what question I was answering. But yeah, how do you sell out, right? So people who have their cryptocurrencies will always find someone there to buy it because it's just so scarce. People always want to buy it. So that's the answer for that. So scammers, right? So scamming is a big thing. Let me answer this question and I'll go to Kashif. So scamming is a big thing, right? Because a lot of people don't know about this, and that's one of the reasons that I try to come here to talk about it. Nobody should own your Bitcoin for you. It's not a group that you go in. It's not a place that there are no groups that control Bitcoin. The exchanges that you purchase are like banks. You give them your money, they give you Bitcoin, and you have total control over your Bitcoin. You can choose to keep it with them like a bank, or you put it in your PO box or your Bitcoin wallet, and you have the keys to your account and no one else has access to it. So you can't be hacked unless someone hacks your personal account. But if they go and hack these exchanges or the people who are investing in Bitcoin for you, you lose all your money, right? So don't ever go in a system where someone is holding your Bitcoin for you. Always keep custody of your own Bitcoin. And when you keep custody of your own Bitcoin, you get your keys and you have access to them to use it. So be careful of people who are doing pyramid schemes saying you'll make 100% on your Bitcoin or whatever. Ignore them. They want your Bitcoin, so just ignore them. Kashif?
All right, good night.
Yeah, good night.
So I don't know if we went through it already. What would you recommend as a process to buy Bitcoin for somebody who is in Trinidad? Or that's the last thing we're doing tonight?
Oh, no, well, I was mentioning in the previous slide. I think it okay, it went away. So there are places online you can purchase Bitcoin. Now, Trinidad, the banks in Trinidad kind of locked down on Bitcoin. So the only bank that allows you to purchase Bitcoin online is RBC, right? All the other banks, once you try to make a purchase, they might even call you and say, sir, I see a transaction on your credit card. We don't allow this, right? So you have to be kind of careful with the banks. So you can't really purchase Bitcoin very easily. Alternately, you can purchase Bitcoin from peer-to-peer places. So for example, there are other people who will sell you Bitcoin or USDT, and you can use that to purchase Bitcoin. However, they have their markup because they're trying to make money, right? So they buy their Bitcoin. Say they buy their Bitcoin at $7.90. They'll sell you at $8.30, right? Because they want to make their profit. But how I've seen it, my own personal opinion on that is that you lose 20% there and you gain 50% when the price goes up. So I wish I could have gotten 20% markup Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $10,000, right? And I have the personal conviction that Bitcoin will go within the next 10 years, it will be priced at $1 million. That's my own personal conviction. So if you own one Bitcoin right now, in 10 years you'll be a millionaire. Because just how I'm seeing things happening in the global scale, the price just will continue to go up. More and more billionaires are getting into it, and as these billionaires get into it, and politicians start adopting it, more countries start adopting it as currency, the demand is going to go up, but the supply can't increase, and because the supply can't increase, the price has to go up. It's not going to be a straight ride up. You're going to have the ups and downs, but if you're thinking about long-term investment, I definitely would recommend that you think of buying and holding Bitcoin for the next 10 years. And you'll definitely see at least 1,000% growth in your investment. Yeah. So buying locally, it's kind of difficult for Trinidad, but Jamaica is a bit easier. A few more banks support in Jamaica, and the exchanges online we use cex.io. That's the one I recommend using. They all charge their fees as well, so your $10 won't give you $10 Bitcoin. You get a fee on that, but it's worth it in my opinion. Or you can buy from somebody locally and pay that markup.
So the only bank you said that supports the Bitcoin transactions online right now is RBC.
Yeah. Every other bank blocks those transactions.
And that's the RBC credit cards.
Yeah, the credit cards. Yeah, debit cards don't work online for anything. So that's that. Are there no other questions? I want to give away some free Bitcoin. Sounds good? Don't worry, it's not a lot of money.
Question.
Hey, go ahead.
Couple questions.
Sure.
I wanted to know how much of my portfolio should I invest into Bitcoin based on your recommendation? One, and two, I remember you said that there are transactional charges.
Right.
So if you want to send your $100 to China, you said it was 0.000 something cents. Who does this cents go to if there's nobody controlling Bitcoin?
All right, so cool. Great question. Remind the first one again. The first one was what?
How much of my portfolio?
Right. So this is the exact percentage of the portfolio you should invest in Bitcoin, right? Invest as much as you understand. Invest as much as you understand. If right now you think you understand 1%, invest 1%, right? Me personally, I understand more than I have money to invest, right? If somebody were to say to Rohan, I have $1 million to give you right now, there's only one place I would put it, and that's Bitcoin. I wouldn't buy real estate. I wouldn't buy. To be honest, I might take some money to run out of business just to make money, quick money. But it's not my money, and they say they want somewhere to put it. 100% in Bitcoin. And I'd say, don't put all one time. Over the next whatever period you decide in your head, a year or 6 months or whatever, invest every day or every week. You drop it in Bitcoin. That's my own personal investment strategy, right? Now invest as much as you understand. There's a terminology we use, say, do your own research. I've done more than 600 hours of research on this. Trust me. And I say I understand more than I have money to invest. So as much as I can, I invest in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has become the majority of my net worth. And not because I invested the majority of my net worth in it. It has grown to become the majority of my net worth, right? So it has paid me enough for me to believe and understand it, and it has motivated me to learn more about it. And as I learn more, I get more convicted that this is a great investment. So yeah, I'm not giving financial advice because I'm a computer scientist. I didn't do any accounts, not even high school, right? But invest as much as you understand. So that means this is a Bitcoin for beginners. So you should only invest as a beginner, right? And then you go out and you do more research. I have documents I can send to you guys where you can, I formulate a document where we have research material. I can send it out to you so you can understand more and more about Bitcoin before you invest, right? This is not a Ponzi scheme that I'm trying to get you to come in and, you know, if you don't understand anything, don't invest anything, right? Because you're gonna say, Ron, but you told me to invest. I'm like, nah. Right, so that's the first thing. That's the percentage of your portfolio you should use. The second one is Bitcoin. Sending Bitcoin you get fees. You have to pay fees when you send Bitcoin. Now, so in we have two layers of Bitcoin, right? We have what we call layer 1 Bitcoin and we have layer 2 Bitcoin. So layer 1 Bitcoin is the one I told you about, where we image it like a post office box, right? You have your key, you have your Bitcoin in your post office box, and you go there and you look at it, and if you want to send some to someone else, it moves from one box to the next box, right? Now, in order to move your Bitcoin from your address or your post office box to another post office box, whether it be another one you own or someone else owns, it has to be moved by a transaction, right? And transactions are mined by Bitcoin miners, right? Now, Bitcoin miners use very expensive equipment. Like a miner the most expensive miner now on the market is about $20,000 for one. And some Bitcoin mining facilities have hundreds of those, right? Now, so they invest a lot of money and they make a lot of money too, right? Now, the mining is important because it also protects the network, because as more powerful miners, as the miners get more powerful, if you want to hack the Bitcoin network, you have to be more powerful than the miners who are trying to make money from the network, right? And they make money when there's a transaction. So if I'm sending Bitcoin to the OV, I tell the miners, okay, I want to send some Bitcoin to OV, and the miners will say, all right, there are 100 people requesting to send Bitcoin on the network right now. Do you want me to attend to you right now, or you can wait until later? You say, all right, I want right now. So you say, okay, well, the current bid for right now is 10 cents. Are you willing to pay 10 cents? They're like, okay, fine, here's 10 cents. If there's nobody else asking to do transactions, then the current bid will be 0.1 cents. But the more people who start using Bitcoin during a part of the time, the higher the fees are to do transactions. The current fees to do a regular Bitcoin transaction is on layer 1 is somewhere around, say, 40 cents. So if I'm going to send you $1, it's going to cost me 40 cents. If I'm going to send you $1,000, it might cost me 40 cents. If I'm going to send you $1 billion, it's going to cost me 40 cents, right? Because that's just the mining fee that you pay. That's layer 1. Now, a few years ago, they built on top of Bitcoin a layer 2 that has practically almost 0.001% fees, right? So if I want to send $1 on Bitcoin, I'm not going to do a regular Bitcoin transaction. I do what we call a lightning transaction. So Bitcoin Lightning, how it works, think about it as a, an IOU system where it's based on relationships. So for example, I have a relationship with my barber, right? And I want to pay my barber in Bitcoin. So I told my barber, hey, I don't want to be doing Bitcoin transactions on the network because the fees might be high. So guess what? Let's have an agreement that we share Bitcoins between each other, right? The miners don't know anything about it, just between me and you, right? So I have say $1,000, and I have a connection with you. So whenever I go to you, I give you $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, and you have that amount on your side. And then, so every time I go to you, I give you some of my Bitcoin just between me and you. And if, for example, I'm actually I wash cars and my barber has a car, right? He says, I want to wash my car. I have some Bitcoin from that you gave me earlier. Here is back the Bitcoin that you gave me earlier to wash my car. And we go back and forth between each other, sending money back and forth. The cool thing about it now is that if my barber also has a relationship between the grocery store, that same type of relationship, the Lightning Network is a network of people with relationships. So if I want to pay the grocery store, but I have no relationship with the grocery store, but my barber has a relationship with the grocery store, I send the money to my barber sends the money to the grocery store. And that is an instant transaction. Now, it's very cheap because it doesn't cost a lot of resources to do. What ends up happening is the barber says, okay, I'm going to charge you a very, very small fee, say 0.001%, to send that money to the grocery store. So when I think about it now worldwide, if I want to send some money to a guy in China, my barber knows the grocery store, and the grocery store does transactions with somebody in China. So he sends it to his friend in China, who sends it to the person who I want to send it to, right? So, and that's called the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So it's really a network of people, like individuals like you and me, who have what we call channels between each other, and we share Bitcoin back and forth between each other, and it creates a network across the world. For those who know about the concept of 6 degrees of separation, they said that everybody in the world is connected by 6 people. So I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows the next person. And I can connect to everybody in the world through 6 degrees. And that's what the Bitcoin network, Lightning Network, tries to do. It tries to connect to everybody in the world through connections with other people. And that allows me to send you money, even though I don't have a direct connection with you. So there's no central body that is responsible for taking my money and saying, I'm gonna take your money and steal it. It's just really a relationship between people that allows you to send money across the Bitcoin across the network. It's an amazing technology. I can go more and deeper into it over time if you want to learn more. But it's what we use today to send Bitcoin very cheaply with very, very low fees to people across the world. So, did I answer your questions, Ovi?
Yeah, man, you did.
All right.
Thanks.
So I said I want to give away free Bitcoin, and I'm going to use the Bitcoin Lightning Network, right? Right.
Just one more question.
Before I answer your question, hold on the question. I want people to do something while they ask me the question. There's an app in the App Store called Wallet of Satoshi. If you want to receive Bitcoin, I want you to download Wallet of Satoshi on any of the app stores, or the Play Store already. Make sure it has a lot of downloads, because sometimes the Play Store has some scammy ones. So just look for Wallet of Satoshi and download that app, and I'm going to send you Bitcoin. Yeah, go ahead, Ovi.
Yeah, Rohan. I remember seeing that there are coins that are based off of Bitcoin, as in like it mirrors Bitcoin. Can I invest in one of those, or should I stick to Bitcoin? Because there are other types of Bitcoin even sell.
That's correct. So the Bitcoin community is not a specific group of people. It's just anyone who wants to be involved in Bitcoin, and there are people who are technically as the programmers and people who are just technically good at doing stuff. They choose to get involved deeper in understanding and working with Bitcoin, right? And they become developers, software developers like myself, right? And they work on the actual software that powers Bitcoin, right? Now, because there's no central authority that makes decisions, the Bitcoin creates I say oversetting lightning anyway. I lost my point, right? There's no central authority that manages Bitcoin. It's a real community effort. So everybody has to agree. If there's going to be a change in Bitcoin, everybody has to agree, including me, like, right? And if I don't agree to any change that they're going to make, I keep my version of Bitcoin and they keep their version of Bitcoin, right? So you have to, so there's a lot of communication that has to happen in the community. You know, you have to, if there's going to be a change usually take years to happen because of that. Because we don't want to mess up the system. So there's a lot of communication back and forth between the people suggesting the changes. And then these programmers try to sell the ideas, you know, and if the community agrees and I agree, then I accept the new updates to Bitcoin. Now, during the process, because people like to have control, you know, they're saying Bitcoin is too slow, you know, or Bitcoin doesn't do this and Bitcoin doesn't do that. And we need, in order to have a worldwide currency, we need to have a Bitcoin that does this, right? So some people just couldn't agree with what the majority were saying. And they're like, well, we're going to start our own Bitcoin. And they made a copy of the Bitcoin code, created their new one, put their new feature in it, right? A popular one, there are a couple of popular ones. They have Bitcoin Cash, they have Bitcoin SV, that's Satoshi Vision. And so what happened that they cloned the Bitcoin and they got enough support for people to start mining that Bitcoin, right? But what ended up happening is that people went over there, sold that new Bitcoin and bought back other Bitcoin. They sold the Bitcoin that they got there and bought Bitcoin and the price has dropped, right? So that Bitcoin SV is now worth like $300 or something like that. So they followed the hype and said, yeah, this is new Bitcoin. And as soon as it went on the market, they sold all their possessions, bought actual Bitcoin, and it just went to nowhere. But there are still people still supporting it at $300, $400, right? While Bitcoin is at 44,000. So people who want to push a certain type of agenda will clone, because it's open source software, they try to clone Bitcoin to do their own thing. But if the community, like everybody, doesn't support them, then it will just become another altcoin, right? And it's very difficult to kind of push that off. So yeah, it becomes very difficult to really have a Bitcoin that works exactly the same. And generally, there are certain, one of the reasons why Bitcoin doesn't want to just like pick up random features is to maintain the decentralization. So for example, one of those new Bitcoin that there were features that they wanted to do, they wanted to make Bitcoin faster, because Bitcoin is kind of slow right now in terms of how long it takes to do regular layer 1 transactions, right? So they wanted Bitcoin to be faster, so they were pushing for Bitcoin to be faster, so they cloned to make a faster Bitcoin. However, the trade-off with making a faster Bitcoin is that it also uses a lot more space, like hard drive space, to run Bitcoin, and you need more powerful computers to run Bitcoin, right? And when you need more powerful computers, you need to spend a lot more money to participate in the network. So so somebody like me, if I'm not buying an expensive computer to run the Bitcoin network, then I can't have a say. So the Bitcoin people like said, no, we want to keep this small and agile, that anybody, you can use a $50 computer to run Bitcoin. They're actually computers like Raspberry Pis, you can get on $50 US, and you can run Bitcoin on that. So and that allows you to keep the decentralization. So there's no single group of people who have enough resources to like manage the entire network. Like Ethereum, if you were to manage Ethereum network, you need like terabytes and terabytes of server space, right? To run Ethereum. And so only the top people in Ethereum who have benefited early, and the venture capitalists and those can run and participate in the whole Ethereum system. So it becomes more centralized among a group of people. So so basically the point is those Bitcoins are just really another trial at becoming the Bitcoin that failed. Right, so they don't really work. Right, so yeah, I said I want to give out free Bitcoin. So I'm seeing, so if you download the wallet of Satoshi is a Bitcoin Lightning wallet. So what it does, it allows you to accept Bitcoin Lightning payments, right? Now, if you look in the chat, I see Ovi and Julian. I see Ovi and Julian have pasted a string. However, I want it to be a bit more interactive. So Ovi, so what happens is that you can create an invoice, right? An invoice is basically that long string of letters and numbers. And I can take that invoice and I can pay you with that invoice using my Bitcoin wallet, right? Now, that can also be converted into a QR code. Because I want it to be interactive, I want somebody to put their QR code on the screen with their camera, so I can send them 1,000 Satoshis. 1,000 Satoshis is about 45 US cents.
All right, no problem. The thing is, only the host could share screen.
No, camera, just open the camera, sorry.
Oh,
over the camera is gonna be your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. All right, let me do the share screen thing and see if, all right, okay, I'm seeing Raglan. All right, let me bring up Raglan. All right, let me pin that so I can see it bigger. All right, so Raglan has his invoice up. Hold on, let me open my.
Hey, Ron, I was asking to Ron if I already have a wallet, say I'm using Coinbase. Can I join this wallet of Satoshi with my Coinbase?
Right, so wallet of Satoshi, Coinbase wallet is a Bitcoin wallet. Wallet of Satoshi is a, oh, sorry. Enter the amount, put 1,000 in that section. Put 1,000 for an enter amount. All right, so he put up 1,000, not $1,000, 1,000 sats. Oh, okay. You almost robbed me a while ago. So sats is the but let's put 50 cents. But put 50 cents. Sats is the unit in Bitcoin, and it has a conversion, right? So 1,000 sats, which is about 43 cents. So I'm going to click send. Now bring up the screen so I can see the QR code. A little higher. All right, so I'm going to scan that now. All right. So on mine, I'm going to click send so you can see it. And it should pop up on his screen in a second. Did you get it? It said send on my side.
The person muted.
Yeah.
Hey, Kashif, look like he get to bloop, 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 bloop.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna send to the next. Raglan, tell me if you get it. On my side, it said send. So check your.
Yeah, it seems so.
Kashif got it.
Yeah.
You got it?
Kashif received.
I didn't receive anything.
No, I sent to Raglan a while ago.
All
right, I'm gonna send to
yeah, try somebody. Let's look again.
All right, I'm gonna scan. Send. So I just hit send. Yeah, it's normally faster than this. Hold on. Okay, I guess I'm confirming.
Right. Plus 1,000 sats.
Oh, you got your 1,000 sats. Okay,
yeah,
good.
plus 1,000. Yes.
All right, I sent yours already. Check the in Kashif. Check yours. Check. Just go to the balance and see if you got it. Because it said, yeah, you have it, 1,000. You see it? Right, awesome. Which is 43 cents. So I just sent you money. I didn't need permission to send it. You didn't need to open a bank account. You didn't, and if you realize you got this exact amount I sent you, because the fees to send out 1,000 sats is perhaps 0.01 sat. Right? Because it's very low, because that's 1,000 sats like 50 cents, right? Almost 50 cents, 43 cents right now. Right? The fees are like 0.01. So it actually just rounds it back up. Right? So you didn't even see the fee because it was just so small. So I'm able to send you money back and forth very easily using Bitcoin. And this is what is being used in places like El Salvador. I use this same app to pay for food in El Salvador.
So if you go on and you purchase Bitcoin from one of the 4 sites that you had said in the presentation,
right?
How would that get into this wallet?
Right. So if you look at that app, you'll see a part that says on-chain. Let me open. You'll see a Lightning and you see on-chain. Let me see.
On-chain.
Let me open. I was actually using a different Lightning wallet.
Oh, okay. I mean, this one gives us the option of buying Bitcoin through this app.
Yeah, but that's not what you want to get.
Okay.
I think receive, right? So when you click receive, and you see Lightning and you see on-chain.
Oh.
Right, so the on-chain is an actual Bitcoin transaction using Bitcoin. So when you buy from exchange, you provide this address, right? And then you get it into this address and you can send it with Lightning. Right?
Okay.
Right, so that's how that works. So I see. So in the chat I see some invoices like McKnight sending me one and Julian. I can copy and paste this text. So let me actually copy and paste this. I'm pasting in my phone, and so either I scan the QR code or I copy and paste the invoice, and it does the same thing. Right? So it does this transaction by sending it to this address. And as I mentioned, the technology, how it works is that I'm connected to somebody who's connected to somebody who's connected to somebody who's connected to you. Right? And I just send it to 2 different people. And both of you don't know anybody, don't know each other, right? But because you opened the app connected you to other people. Right? And that's pretty much how it works. And you have full control over your Bitcoin. I think there's a part there that allows you to save your Bitcoin, the code, the keys. Let me see if it's in this one. So when you have the keys, not even the app has control over your Bitcoin. I'm trying to remember if this is one of them. because you have certain apps that are what we call custodial apps that they kind of hold the Bitcoin for you, and then like a bank would, and then there are apps that allow you to be the sole owner of the Bitcoin. The ones that operate like banks tend to be a bit easier to use, so people tend to use those. But if you're going to put any significant amount of money in Bitcoin, generally say you want an app that you can save your keys. I use one called Moon, but I'm using iOS. So the ones I use is MUUN. That one I'm certain allows me to save my own keys. So if my phone gets lost, I don't lose my Bitcoin. Once you have your keys, whichever phone you load your Bitcoin in, you have your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin isn't stored on your phone. It's stored on the blockchain, right? And you have your keys, you load up blockchain, and you get back your Bitcoin. Right. Anyone else wanted to share to get some free Bitcoin?
Ron, I send you a text in a WhatsApp, sir.
Send me a WhatsApp. Let me scan. Let me see. All right, so I'm gonna bring them on the WhatsApp web. All right. So and it's pretty much practically instant. So yeah. So research just sent me one. So I don't know. All right. So I just sent you one, Andre. And okay, research, send me back, but specify 1,000. So specify the amount, either 50 cents or 1,000 sats, because you send invoice without a total, like a volume. All right, so send me back again with how much you actually want. So it's an invoice. So you do it. If you are selling, like you're on the street, and that's the cool thing about Lightning, which is different from any other payment system in the world, is that you can start today. If I go to Coronation Market in Jamaica, right, and I convince everybody that download Wallet of Satoshi and accept Bitcoin, Bitcoin is automatically just accepted in the market, right? There is now a marketplace for Bitcoin. You didn't need the government to approve it. You didn't need any IT infrastructure. All you need is internet. And for some cases, you don't even need internet to do it. So it's a very permissionless type of system that allows you to have access to commerce. And it's important. I just sent you the stats, Risa. It's important, especially in developing countries, right? Like they were talking about experiences in El Salvador when I went there the other day. And they're saying there are people who live in remote parts of El Salvador who needed to get money from people in the States, right? So I want to send $100 to my children who are in the country, right? The only way I can do that is to send to Western Union. They have to take a bus from the country, come into the city, right? They go and they get the money from Western Union. Western Union takes a big cut of that money. And there are certain parts of the city that are kind of dangerous. So you have to be careful of walking around with money in the city, right? And so you have to go and catch another a bus, 2-3 hour drive back home just to get the $100. And by the time you get it, it worth $60, right? Now with Bitcoin, especially in El Salvador, you can now stay in the States. Tell me your Bitcoin Lightning wallet. I send you that Bitcoin in El Salvador. You instantly have it on your phone, right? And I just go to the shop and I buy food with Bitcoin. I keep the money on my phone. They said it has taken approximately $30 million from Western Union in the last year in transaction fees, because people now don't need to go to third parties and intermediaries to do transactions, to send money. And I know it's a big part of Jamaican economy. We call it, when you send money back from the States, remittance, right? And you'd save tons of money on remittance, especially now in the States with Cash App. Most people know somebody with the Cash App, right? So you just send money through Cash App, and Cash App supports Lightning. So if you want to send money with Lightning, you just get a Cash App and they send money to your phone. So it's an amazing technology that's here, but people just don't know about it. And that's why I just thought it was important to come and share. So when people are they're aware of that this type of technology exists. And guess what? Once it starts to catch on, it's just going to explode, because there are whole countries that are now starting to adopt it. Governments are adopting it, and it's just going to go places. So yeah, we're at 2-hour mark. I don't want to worry the people. Anybody else have any questions? Anything you want? By the way, hold on to that 1,000 sats that I just sent you. If this was 2013, that 50 cents would probably now be worth how much? It was like $1,000, 40 times. So it's probably worth $20 now. 40 times, right? That 50 cents would have been worth $20 if you had held it on in 2013.
Rohan, don't forget to send to Kiki. I sent my invoice in the chat.
Oh, I did not see it. Sorry. All right, let me copy and paste it.
Julian is saying shouldn't get hers either. So
yeah, I didn't send it to the people who sent it as text, because I have to copy and paste it to send it. So let me send. All right, send to this address. All right, I just sent it to Kiki and Julian.
Received.
All right, awesome. Copy and paste. All right, I'll just send to Julian too. All right, so I hope everybody got theirs. Mac Night, or this Mac, send to Mac Night. Send. For Mac Night, you need to specify how much. So just put 1,000. Put 1,000 in. It's still online. Oh, I think that person probably left.
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure what to do.
Oh. Let me change my view. And I see everybody in the chat. So when you're creating the invoice, right? You can specify the amount. Either put 50 cents or put 1,000 sats. And then send the invoice back into the chat. And then I'll resend it. So I'm saying, if you have any more questions in the meantime, while I do this, I'll wait for the invoice to come, then I can answer them. But as it's if you think you have no question, there's a whole lot more to what I just explained. Right? I just gave you like a bird's eye view of all that I know. I'm sharing what you can understand. There's a lot more complications, and there are a lot more new technologies coming out on top of all of this. There is just so much happening in the space right now.
So I typed in I typed in 1,000 sats.
Right. type in 1,000 sats and then create the invoice and then just paste it in the chat. Right. My hope is that the Caribbean, people in the Caribbean will start using this more. That when I tell you about Bitcoin now and someone asks you about it, you are able to share more about Bitcoin and how useful it might be. And if you, I know somebody in this chat told me that, they were in a business and somebody offered to pay them in Bitcoin and they weren't sure, right? Should I do this or not, right? And I said, yes, go ahead. And now you understand a little bit better why you should accept it in Bitcoin, especially if you want to have a savings account. I really call Bitcoin a very high returning long-term savings account. And if you look at it that way, then you have a lot to gain in the future. All right, let me send to. All right, so I sent Magnite there, Bitcoin. Yeah, so and this Bitcoin that you have now, you can feel, I sent you 1,000 right now because it's so divisible. You can send a single sat to somebody, right? So if you want to experiment with other people, just tell them that, hey, I want to send you some Bitcoin, and you send them 5, you send them 100, just play around with it, just to see how it works. And it's real money, right? It's not like play. I just spent like $4 for the purpose of education, right? It's actual money, right? And oh, stop recording. Oh yes. Yeah, that's gonna be a huge file.